Greetings. Welcome to Cyber Focus, your source for international business information. I'm your host, Christopher Rice, and our guest today is Tyler Madsen. Tyler is the Senior Director of Eurasian Markets at 4Life Research, a company that manufactures and distributes supplements to support immune system health, based in Sandy, Utah. He has previously served as an Associate Instructor of the Russian language at Indiana University. Tyler has a background in Slavic languages, marketing, communications, and public relations. Today, Tyler will discuss his background with the Russian language, how he uses language skills to tap into Eurasian markets, and the current business environment in former Soviet countries. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Well, Tyler, to start off, you're from a small city in Wyoming. Why the interest in the Russian language and culture? Can you tell us more about your background?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. People think Wyoming, since it's kind of this isolated country in the West, that we're not very maybe outward focused, but the high school I went to actually had a lot of language programs. We had foreign exchange programs, and so I kind of always grew up in an environment where there was a lot of interest and exposure to people from other cultures, and so I, for some reason, kind of latched on to Russian, studied it in college. I had an opportunity to spend a couple of years there doing humanitarian work in various parts of Russia near the Black Sea. And I decided to kind of make it into a career if I could. And so I looked for opportunities to do that, and it's actually worked out very well.
And here you are.
And here I am. So, yeah.
Great. Can you talk to us about what role your language skills have played in your current position? How do you use your Russian language skills and cultural knowledge?
Sure. Yeah. So what I do, I manage operations for 4Life Research in former Soviet countries, and so our main headquarters there is in Russia, but we also do work in Ukraine, in Belarus, Mongolia, and Kazakhstan. And so one thing that a lot of those markets all have in common is that Russian is one of the lingua francas of the area.
Yes.
So Russian is very useful in that sense. So it's great for me as a manager in this area to be able to actually to speak Russian, to work with clients, to work with partners in a common language rather than working through an interpreter or relying on or assuming that they're going to know English, which isn't always the case.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it's great when a foreign company can come into to a new market and know something about the culture, also have the resources within itself to interact with people in their language rather than assuming that they'll know English.
Yeah, assume everyone speaks English.
Yeah, it's not always the case, and even if it is the case, I don't know, it seems a little bit arrogant maybe. So yeah.
Okay. Well, how important would you say language skills are in today's business environment? What should business professionals learn about the culture of another country they're working with?
Sure. No, I think it's definitely important to understand a lot about the culture, whether it's maybe the historical context of the place you're operating in, maybe a little bit more about the lives of the consumers you're targeting, for example. Because what we've found is coming in with assumptions that we've learned maybe here in the U.S. through our training or through our work, maybe with other markets as well, is there are some significant differences, whether it's just consumer preferences or whether it's the way people perceive something in a marketing campaign as subtle as color. Different cultures have different symbolism behind color, and so we've tried to build a team that has these sensitivities of the cultures that we're working in, so that we can avoid pitfalls that might decrease the effectiveness of whatever it is that we're trying to do. Same thing with language. A direct translation of something that sounds great in English may not do the job in Russian. So when we're trying to localize, we focus not only just on translating the content, but also translating the emotion and the context behind whatever it is that we're doing.
Do you guys do any sort of research ahead of time into kind of cultural knowledge, or is that something you already have on hand?
Well, I mean, definitely both. So I work with a team of 10 other people in marketing and operations, and many of them come from the areas that we're working in. I have team members from Mongolia, from Russia, team members that have spent a lot of time in Ukraine. So I definitely draw on their knowledge and their experience, but we also reach out to consultants in the area, or we do our own research, through whatever is available online or in other publications that we subscribe to.
Okay.
So yeah, we try to be thorough. We try to understand really the context that we're operating in.
Great. Well, specifically regarding Russia and former Soviet countries, how would you describe the business climate you've experienced there? What barriers to entry do you see, and what are the challenges of your market expansion?
Sure. So the business climate, it's actually really good, despite what we kind of hear in the news. When we actually get down to to working with our partners and with vendors or with people that we want to do business with, they're motivated, they're interested, and they don't really look to see the origin of the company, right? They're like, well, you're here doing business in Russia, we want to do business too, let's find a way to make this work. There obviously are barriers to entry. The legislative and kind of the regulatory environment in Russia is a little bit complex and definitely much more regulated than maybe what we're used to here in the United States. So making sure that we're always in compliance with laws that are constantly changing is definitely something that we have to spend a lot of time and devote a lot of resources to doing, just so that we make sure that we are operating in full compliance, everything is above board. That hasn't always been the case in Russia. Some people have tried to find other means maybe to navigate that system, and there is an element of corruption. But what we have found is that we have been able to avoid having to venture into that type of business ourselves. It maybe just takes a little bit more work on our part to acquaint ourselves with the laws and then to comply. So
just got to put all the preparatory work in.
Definitely, it's a lot of preparation. It's working with we work with established consultants that have great reputations, many of whom have offices throughout the world, and that's often how we find consultants to work with in country. Is we'll work with a firm that we're familiar with from somewhere else. It helps to have a little bit of that element of familiarity.
They're already
an opportunity to vet who you're working with, because going into a new market. It can be definitely a daunting task, and you don't know exactly who you can trust, whose advice you can trust. And so building that core, maybe partnership, to have people that are going to give you good advice to get everything set up is definitely crucial.
Great. Well, you're launching new products in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. I know you just got back from a trip to all three. Can you talk about these products and the approach you're taking in these countries? What differences affect your marketing among the three?
Sure. Yeah, so for Life in general, we try to create products that have a very verifiable scientific support for them. And so we devote a lot of money into research and development. We work with health and medical professionals to vet all of the ingredients that go into our products. And so we have several product lines that are kind of focused on different health concerns that people may have. Mm-hmm. And so we do a lot of research on the particular markets that we're working in to see, okay, is this a product that has any demand? Is this a product that really responds to maybe an issue or a concern or a need that people have? And so we definitely don't always launch every single product that maybe we have in our for-life inventory in any particular country. We try to do it a little bit more strategically, for sure. In many of these countries, just to get a product on the ground, there's a very long registration process, working with different consumer protection agencies, with different other different agencies on the ground that vet these products to make sure they're safe, that they're effective, that they're not, that the products are what we say they are, right? And so the process can sometimes go up to a year, even 2 years, just to get a product on the ground, and there's a lot of money that we have to invest into that process. So we're very careful beforehand picking products that we think have a good chance of being approved in these countries, that have a good chance of having a good demand for them as well.
Tyler, thanks so much for coming in and speaking with us.
Of course.
Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure was all mine.
That's all for this edition of Cyber Focus. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments or suggestions for future topics, please let us know at CIBER, that's CIBER, cyber, @indiana.edu.